evening, everyone, and welcome to the Borough of Englewood Cliffs Caucus Meeting of the Mayor and Council. Today is February 13th, 2019, at 6:34 p.m. I call the meeting to order. Madam Clerk, may I have a roll call, please?
Mayor Kranjak?
Here.
Councilperson DeWolf?
Here.
Song?
Here.
Savari? Here. Park? Here. Aversa?
Here.
O? Here. Borough Attorney?
Yep.
Municipal Clerk? Everyone's present, Mayor.
Okay, is yo a substitute for here or present, or is that just the uneducated?
That's what I have to say.
Yo?
Yo.
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 Nice. Madam Clerk, could you please read into the record the Open Public Meetings Act statement?
Adequate notice of this meeting was given to the press and posted as required. Date and time of this meeting was legally given as required by the Open Public Meetings Act. This notice is on file with the municipal clerk and posted on the bulletin boards. Minutes of this meeting will be made available to the public upon completion of typing and proofreading by the municipal clerk.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to go into closed session, please? All in favor? Madam Clerk, would you please read into the record the appropriate language to go into closed session?
Whereas the Mayor and Council of Borough of Englewood Cliffs has deemed it necessary to go into closed session to discuss certain confidential matters, where the minutes of closed session will be confidential as permitted under the Open Public Meetings Act, shall be released and there is no further need for confidentiality as authorized by the Borough Clerk. Now therefore be it resolved that the Mayor and Council of Borough of Englewood Cliffs will go into closed session for the following matters permitted under the Open Public Meetings Act and JSA and Code 4-12, pending litigation regarding Borough of Englewood Cliffs, affordable housing, 800 Sylvan Avenue, LLC versus Borough of Englewood Cliffs, Mayor and Council and Planning Board, 800 Sylvan Avenue, LLC versus Planning Board, Builders Suit Challenge, number 4, Mayor Franchise versus Council, Englewood Cliffs, Eastwood versus O versus Savari, the Borough. Oh, and 2 personnel matters, George Rainbow will receive the rights notice and the secretary.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to come out of closed session, please?
Second.
Okay, we're running late. We have the regular meeting starting at 8 o'clock. We need to open to the public. Can I have a motion to do that?
Second.
All in favor? Okay, for members of the public who wish to speak, you can either speak now, or you can speak at our 8 p.m. meeting, when there's more people here, or you can speak at both, if you want to. So, if there's anyone from the public who wishes to be heard, please raise your hand, and I'll recognize you. Yes, sir.
Can I speak now?
Yes, sir, sure.
I want to distribute these documents to the council. The number should be enough.
Can you state your name and address for the record?
My name is Dr. Hanaska Abel. I live at 368 Morrow Road.
Thank you. Okay, you can speak at will, whatever you like to say.
I understand that there is an agreement with Boswell Engineering about the flooding in Morrow Road. I want to have these documents for future reference attached to the session and the protocol of today. On the first 2 pages, you find a summary of the events that actually led to the Boswell calculated placement of 30-inch culverts into Morrow Road. By our calculation, the culverts were predicted to be too small, and the inundations would continue. Boswell ignored this. On the second page, you find that a sequence of payments, $1.5 million in total. And you see that we repeatedly contacted the mayor, the council, and Boswell.
The then mayor, not me.
The then mayor, not you. And they started the work ignoring our input completely. And when the work was done on September 8, 2008, the pipes were in ground, not yet asphalted. We videotaped 3 flooding events in a single day that jumped the curb and broke through the surface of the not yet asphalted road. We reported this to the supervising borough engineer, who was also an employee of Boswell, Mr. Mirandi. And by contract, Mirandi was to supervise the propriety and the correctness of the work. That was clearly evidence that the work was not correct. Nevertheless, he proceeded, as you can see from the schedule, to approve $700,000 for a public work for which we pay taxes, that to this day has generated per year several inundations. Please turn to this page.
The third page.
This page shows a night flood of August 22nd, 2018. You see the size of the car and the size of the water that comes out of the intake. There's total reversal of flow. Next picture, so the entrance to our house. The waters are higher than the curb. They jump the curb and flow into the property. They inundated the Karmanukian property, they inundated the Han property. They are higher than ours, and they caused a lake in the back of our property. The next picture shows me standing in our driveway. If you can see on this picture my shoes or my ankles, you can. The water is so high. And this rushed into our garden, formed a lake, and almost again broke the wall to the O'Brien property. I was up that night, it was 2 o'clock in the morning, and I wrote a memo to the current mayor, which should be in the records, but I want to make sure that you all have it, which describes the events. I think there are many aspects here, but one thing is for certain. If the council proceeds with the approval of this $185,000 agreement with Boswell, after stopping a jury trial that was to review 8 or 9 videos and dozens of images of what has happened since this defective engineering was completed, I have to ask the council, have you no decency?
I completely agree with you, Doctor. Doctor, stay for a minute. Doctor. I completely agree with you, and I had started that litigation on behalf of the borough and your neighbors just to fix this problem, because clearly there was a problem, and this is Boswell Engineering, so everybody knows Stephen Boswell was a founding shareholder of Connect One Bank. He sits on the board. Joe Parisi and he are good friends, and so you got deficient engineering, right? And you're the one who's suffering for it, and I felt terribly for it. So we brought a litigation to recover the money to fix it, and we went through mediation, and I thought we had it done. And then what happened was the Democratic Majority Council came in. They excluded me since January 3rd. I was excluded by Al Wunsch and everybody else here from any participation in negotiating this. Meanwhile, our own engineer, Mazer Consulting, said it's going to cost twice that amount, close to $400,000, to fix it. So I believe it'll get fixed, but the borough and the other taxpayers are going to have to cover for what Joe Parisi's friend, Stephen Boswell, and his company failed to do correctly the first time and then the second time. So I agree with you and everything you said, and I'm embarrassed to sit here with these people knowing that they threw you under the bus.
Well, it's more.
Excuse me?
Yeah.
You're embarrassed to sit here with us?
I am, actually.
I would like our counsel who negotiated that to explain to this gentleman, I do feel for the situation, but we also were at a point in this negotiations where the judge had already decided it was going to be less than what we settled for. So I would like the mediator...
That's absolutely not true. No. I was at that mediation.
You were not at that.
I was at the mediation in October.
You were not there.
And I knew where we settled, and I also knew that we had a trial coming up.
Mayor?
Can I come back to the...
If I could address the issue with regards to the fact of what happened. When I was asked by the council to take a look at the litigation that had been going on, I've been seeing that we had a ton of bills that were being paid. Are you doing anything for the public?
He's actually explaining what happened.
Sit down. You need to sit down.
He's explaining.
Stand, if you don't mind.
No.
Where's the mayor?
I preside this meeting. You need to sit down and just sit.
I have no problem.
All right. You don't have the floor, actually. I control this meeting. You don't have
Actually,
the
I
floor.
would like him
Because
to
everything
explain, because
you've
this is
done
what the
has
council
hurt
voted
this
on.
borough tremendously. And you taxpayers...
Mayor, this is not a
taxpayers are going to
dictatorship.
have to pay.
Please allow him to explain to the gentleman.
Doctor, thank you. Anybody else wishing to be heard? Yes, it's the public portion.
Okay, well, we'll let you speak out after the public portion.
Lauren Eastwood, Four Wheeler Drive. First of all, I would like an explanation for why we haven't had any problems with videos for the last 3 years under Republican control, but all of a sudden, we have a video which conveniently omits statements by two Republicans, and that incomplete video is on the borough's website, but is not labeled as incomplete. And it has been offered to a judge of the Superior Court without disclosing to that judge that it is not a complete video.
Anybody want to take that one? Borough clerk?
The last time I told you what happened, you called me a liar.
No. Answer the question.
I went to tell her what I told you 2 meetings ago when I was recording.
The borough clerk claimed that the recording broke, the stop.
No, that's
Why don't you
not
explain for
right.
yourself? Explain for yourself.
While it was on, I saw that it was not properly recorded, and I leaned over and I said to the mayor, I don't want any issues with anyone that opens this video. It's not recording properly. And I stated that to him, and you could probably see...
I don't remember that.
Of course you don't.
Well,
It's convenient.
it was
for
said.
you
I heard
to
it.
remember.
Of course
But
you
I
did.
leaned over, and it's probably on tape, and I whispered to you, look, Mayor, it didn't record
But the tape was
properly."
broken, right?
No, I didn't.
Then it should be labeled as such on the borough's website that it is incomplete.
Yeah, why don't you do that?
Incomplete, and I think that Judge Frisha also needs to be
I
notified.
don't deal with...
Well, that's Mr. Wunsch's department, but she needs to be
Did you
notified.
tell Mr. Wunsch that that tape was incomplete?
No one asked me, I told you.
So he just loaded it?
And I'd also like to point out that the doctor is not the only person, and the doctor and his neighbors, who has had issues with Boswell's work. They approved my next-door neighbor, a former Democratic councilman's, as-built plan, even though it was completely different from the site plan they submitted, and they didn't seem to notice that he had put in a 4-foot retaining wall or completely regraded the property. And I think that we have a right as borough residents who pay for the borough engineer services to expect competence and to expect that appointments will be made on the basis of competence, not on the basis of political ties or business ties.
Anybody else from the public? Yes.
Donald Morfett, 26 John Street, Englewood Cliffs. Last meeting, I believe a special meeting, everybody took exception to a 3-minute rule. And I'd just like to remind the mayor and everybody that during the planning board meeting, where they submitted plans for the housing at 800 Sylvan, there was a 3-minute rule issued and nobody could speak. Yet, today I'm reading that a 3-minute rule is holding everybody back. I think there should be a little even-handedness, because you, Mr. Mayor, congratulated my friend, the president, of running a great meeting. And he did, and he had a 3-minute rule and cut everybody off at 2.5 minutes to 3 minutes.
thought it was unconstitutional.
Okay? So it's unconstitutional for you.
Well, first of all, this is my meeting. I don't want to limit anyone's freedom of speech. You kids know what freedom of speech is, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, right? You get to say what you want because you're in America.
100%.
And guys like that...
100%. As long as it's not a false narrative, Mr. Mayor, and it not only your meeting, but it's our meeting. This is our town, not just your town.
Can I respond to that comment? So on 4 different occasions, this mayor limited 5 minutes to the residents.
That's correct.
Not true.
That is true.
I've never limited anybody.
Okay, regular meeting December 2017, regular
Yeah.
meeting January 2018.
Absolutely not true.
Regular meeting February 2018. And regular meeting...
Back to the video. Back to the videotape.
No, I think what was said was, if you're becoming redundant, then it's time to sit down. Okay, anybody else in the public? Yes. So this is, public comments.
All right, okay.
Just state your name and address.
Okay, my name is Matthew DeGalli. I have interest in property on Fifth Street, and I'd like to know what happened to the Fifth Street project, where we stand on that.
You look at that. All right, a borough administrator doesn't know what's happening with it. It was originally being planned to be paved, and then there were some other complications that came up that I'm not at liberty to speak about publicly,
Okay.
but it's still in the works.
It's still in the works. Do you know how far it is in the works?
It got, how should I say, because of some litigations that we have upon us, it got complicated, and I can't tell you exactly what.
Okay.
Can you do me a favor? Can you call me?
Okay, you got a business card? I sent some emails. I didn't get a response yet, so maybe a phone call would be better. I guess you must be Loretta. You must, Loretta? Elizabeth, I'm sorry. All right, thank you. That's all I need to know.
Anybody else wishing to be heard, please raise your hand. Yes. Again, you could also speak at the regular meeting if you want.
Yvonne Favaro, 70 Johnson Avenue. I've been a resident of Englewood Cliffs since my father built a house on 6th Street in 1950. Until now, I have spent many hours volunteering in various capacities because I have deep-seated loyalty and devotion to this town. It is in that spirit that I come before you to bring certain matters to your attention. Between the years of 2001 and 2016, I served this borough as chairperson of the Shade Tree Commission. With hard work and many hours of dedicated service, the commissioners, Moraville, Melanie Simon, Bobby Goldstein, Janice Sennacherib. Could I have your attention, please? Amy Chaffee, Yang Chang, and Leslie Rauscher managed the shade trees of our urban forest and complied with all the regulations set forth in the state statutes. We received numerous awards and citations for our efforts. We continue the legacy of Ruth Lustgarten and received the Tree City USA Award for 35 years in a row, one of only 4 towns in New Jersey to achieve that milestone. 3 separate 5-year forestry management plans were approved by the state, thereby protecting the borough from litigation from any shade tree-related incidents for 15 years. In order to maintain our approved status, we submitted extensive documented accomplishment reports to the state each year and had our members attend continuing education classes. We planted about 25 trees each year. And in addition to the arborvitae trees, we maintain the community's forest with an appropriate pruning and removal program. Since Mayor Kranjak's appointment of the new commission with Lauren Eastwood as its chairperson, none of this has been done. Lauren, I'm really disappointed. I thought you would have done a better job. No accomplishment reports have been submitted in the last 3 years. 75 trees were not planted. The 2017 state management plan was never submitted, leaving the borough exposed to litigation from any tree-related incident. This is increasingly a more likely event since the trees have not been properly cared for since Lauren Eastwood and her Kranjak-appointed commission took over. Vendors hired by Lauren Eastwood have not been paid for over a year. Another possible lawsuit. At least 10 donated trees at Whitty Field have died and not been replaced, even though they were paid for by the residents who expected the borough to maintain them. That trust was broken by Lauren Eastwood, who does not believe the borough should be responsible for them. I recently have been appointed to sit on the New Jersey State Community Forestry Council. I found it very embarrassing when it was announced that Englewood Cliffs had not submitted an accomplishment report or earned the necessary CEUs to be compliant with the state statutes. More importantly, the borough has not submitted a new 5-year management plan. Therefore, the borough is now vulnerable to litigation should any incident occur. Another possible lawsuit. Without an approved forestry management plan, the borough is not eligible for any grants. This is a source of revenue which could make improvements to our parks and other trees possible, and other projects possible. I wanted to attend the shade tree meetings to express my concerns directly. However, no meetings have been held or even scheduled as required by law. I therefore recommend that the current Shade Tree Commission be recalled by the council and replaced with qualified, willing members appointed by the council. Thank you for your attention. Good night.
Anybody else wishing to be heard? Again, you'll have time to speak after. Yes, sir.
Dave DiGregorio, 165 Charlotte Place. I completely agree with Ms. Favaro. I think we should be in a town that proactively protects our environment and encourages good practices, environmentally sound practices for the younger generation as an example. I also would like to remind the mayor that there is a fire code and that he should invite all of the young people in to sit down. I know that you've chastised me many times for being in the doorway.
Thank you for reminding me. You know, actually, I wanted to end this caucus meeting, honor the children who are here, the soccer players.
I will come back afterwards, but I have a couple of things I need to say before. First of all, I would...
Let me do this.
No, well, you're...
You want to get out of the aisle? Is Mr. DiGregorio...
Come inside. Come in. Sit over here. Sit over there. There you go.
All right, and also try to remember to pledge your allegiance, because you're going to lead it tonight.
First of all, I would like to, I'm very concerned about the doctor and his flood situation, and I do think we need to hear from what Mr. Wunsch had to say. It doesn't matter if he's standing or sitting. Personally, if he stands, I think I could hear him a little bit better, and I think that residents, and especially the good doctor, deserves a complete explanation. So I don't think that the mayor should be stifling anybody. Nobody wants to be stifled. Everyone has the chance to speak.
So, do you agree that we should fix Morrow Road?
I'm not answering your questions because it is not a cross-examination. I know you're a lawyer, but I don't answer your questions. Okay? I want Mr. Wunsch to give a complete report, and and I have a feeling that if the town would understand exactly what's going on, there would be an understanding that this would be financially expedient.
I'd like to do that at the regular meeting. Is that all right?
That's
We're going to do
fine.
that at the regular meeting.
Good.
Yeah.
I will be back to make my other comments at a later time. Thank you.
10 minutes. Thanks. Anybody else, or do you want to wait till the regular meeting?
Maria Valari, 45 Jane Drive. I don't want to say what I'm going to say at a regular meeting because I don't want to insult the 3-minute rule. But I did want to address what Mrs. Favaro said when she got up here. Actually, Mrs. Favaro did attend only one meeting in the whole time that we had meetings. We also had no records found. Her computer crashed. We had nothing to go on, but whatever we could find out here and there, and there was no one to help us. And that's a fact. We did hire Burgess to prepare the 5-year plan. He was working with James Ribeiro, but he was fired, and we don't know what happened with all that. I mean, you know, you're expecting people to accomplish things when there's nobody to talk to, whether in the beginning, whenever we reached out, I'm talking. Whenever we reached, just like he just said, he's talking, I'm talking. Afterwards, you can say something. We reached out to Mrs. Ferraro, we reached out to everybody that was on that board, but all we got is stonewall and no information. And that, you know, that goes on in this borough all the time, from my past experience at the Board of Health. It's extremely political. Nobody would even move a finger because they want you to fail. That's a fact. That's a fact. I was expected to fail in Board of Health, didn't get help there, there were no records then, and it's really a shame that you all sit here pointing fingers and making accusations when you don't know all the facts. We did get Tree City USA, yes we did. We did Arbor Day, we did everything that we had to do that Mrs. Ferraro did. So shame on her for coming up here and making even this political. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wants to speak now? Yes.
Unless you're gonna add my time together and give it to me later, otherwise
I don't know what
they decide when you're here. Carol McMorrow, 49 Summit Street. I just feel that I wasn't planning on stating or responding to some of these items they brought up. I'll make it very quick. I cannot believe they brought up the planning board's meeting, because I stated to Russ Perino last night, I think we need to reference the fact that you, one time, did it was 5 minutes actually, because we had a crowd, and we wanted to try and keep everything moving, because it was a very long presentation by Mr. Serenian, and I asked Russ, should we make that clear at the meeting, and he says, Carol, absolutely not, because we know what we did, and I don't want it to come across as being political. Shame on you guys. Every single thing you touch, you turn into making it political, okay? It was done once, and you were there, Ms. Sabari, and Ms. Geiger did not, excuse me, Ms. Geiger did not,
And by the way, it was Miss...
I remember it being, okay. Can you stop? This is why we go past over the 3 minutes. You did this at the last meeting. Let me just make my statement. I have the facts straight.
Please don't argue with the residents.
Thank you. Okay. And Ms. Geiger went past her time, and he let her go on and on and on. He did not threaten to remove her by a police officer like you threatened to remove Miss Eastwood 3 times, Gloria. She's a resident. That's number 1. Number 2, as for the doctor, I worked with him. I'm looking forward to hearing what Mr. Wunsch said, because that's another thing he lied in his certification to Judge Fisher on. He's lied several times to Judge Fisher. Mr. Wunsch, you really need to write a letter to her letting her know that you're misrepresenting facts, okay? That was not a good deal. You sold these residents out on the Morrow Road deal. I was involved in that from beginning to end with the mayor. In fact, I took videos for those residents on days and handed it in when it was flooding to help Mark out, because he was busy. So don't tell me when Andy Hippolyte from Mazer Consulting gave an estimate, rock bottom, it should not be under 342, and you settled for 185 with a backdoor deal, and not even tell the mayor?
This isn't political at all, is it?
But no, this is not political. That is a disgrace. Each one of you...
Representing that she's doing something illegal.
Councilwoman Park, stop arguing with the resident.
Excuse me. I'm allowed to state my opinion.
The resident has the...
I am allowed to state... I'm not libeling you. I am not libeling and slander. Mazer...
You're an embarrassment.
I'm not an embarrassment. You are.
First of all, there are children here.
You are an embarrassment. Stop interrupting me, okay? You have the report. You need to stop.
You need to stop. You need to stop.
I'm not slandering.
You don't have to, I read your certification. I read your certification. It's all false.
Mazer Consulting gave me those numbers, Mr. Wunsch. You settled for $185,000. You let all these residents down that have been suffering with these floods for years under the Parisi administration because Mr. Boswell is a business partner of theirs. So all of you should be kicking in any extra dollars that it's going to cost those residents. That's number...
All the money we have to pay as a resident for your loss.
She's attacking me again?
Stop attacking the residents.
She's
You're
attacking
elected
me again.
officials.
They're being attacked. Number 3.
You're elected officials. Behave like elected officials.
Don't break the laws and you won't get sued. Don't break the laws. Number 3.
Please, there's children here. Please.
I didn't lose. I won. And I will win again.
Can you please let her...
Number 3. Ordinance 2...
You have to stop, Councilwoman Park.
We're not letting a bully us.
I'm not bullying.
She has the right, in America, you have the right to say whatever you want.
You're being a liar, you have the right to defend yourself.
You could defend yourself outside of this room, okay? Not here.
Doesn't matter.
There's children here, I'm sorry, children.
Listen, I'd like to let the kids go. Will I be able to have extra time at the next meeting?
I can't...
Will I be able...
I can't get...
I'm asking right now. Oh, well, they're saying they won't let me speak at the next...
We have a lot of people here tonight, maybe we should make it 3 minutes.
Tell them.
All right, go ahead. Mr.
Will you allow me to speak at the next meeting and let the kids
Go
go?
ahead and speak.
Okay. Ordinance 2000, they said no. They said no. Ordinance, Adaversa and Ella Park. Ordinance 2019-02, I believe it is deficient. I just want to make the statement that I believe it's deficient. I believe you must start all over again because there was no notification either on the agenda or on the handouts at the meeting or at the meeting itself when it was voted on when the public hearing was going to be held. I went back. It's ordinance 2019-02. It's deficient on its face. You must put on the papers that you're handing out when the public hearing is, and the clerk did not announce it publicly. Okay, well, it didn't announce it publicly. Just let me know.
Yeah, the public notice, that's all that's required.
Okay, you don't have to answer all of that.
Don't worry about it.
Okay, anybody else wishing to be heard now, or you could wait till later? Okay, have a motion to close. I'm sorry, did you have a...
I did.
You're okay? Okay. All in favor? Okay. All right, have a motion to adjourn the caucus?
Second.
All in favor? Okay. To the public, we are going to take 5 minutes to set up our regular meeting. Please bear with us. Thank you.